Okay, let's see. Let's go on to the pharmacology and then we can go on to the uses. And I don't really get much into the pharmacology of plants, but this is really an interesting pharmacology. The active ingredient, so called, according to doctors, is hypericin and pseudohypericin and their precursors and hyperforin. It's all this hyper stuff named for the plant. So actually, it's been found that the hypericin, they thought that was the original, that was the active constituent. And when they purified it to 100%, it didn't work. And they found that it had a cofactor, which is the hyperforin. So they had to have that. And so those are considered the active ingredients, and they are very interesting ingredients. Usually I don't really care about ingredients that much. So we have flavonoids. They're cooling. They're they are antioxidants. We have phenolic acids. They're they take down blood pressure, and they have general uses. Tannins. There's not a whole lot. Does taste a little dry. Volatile oils, saturated fatty acids. Alkanols, I don't know what that's for. And then vitamins, yes, sesquiterpenes. So that's probably should have been put under in my list under volatile oils, and small traces of other compounds. So, okay, but the hypericin and hyperforin produce the dark red, are in the dark red glands. Okay, what's so interesting about these substances is that they are what are called protoporphyrins. Okay, so porphyrins are the substance that all biological life forms down to the single cell, amoeba, whatever, require in order to process oxygen. And so porphyrins are absolutely essential for life processes. And actually, they're still found even where there is no life. They still exist. But for instance, chlorophyll is a porphyrin, and so is hemoglobin or heme. And so that means that the chlorophyll is what helps the plant get sunlight and change it into energy, releasing oxygen as a waste product. And then that oxygen goes into the atmosphere, and after billions of years, the plant's built up enough oxygen that life forms, that animals could exist, that breathe the oxygen to balance things out. So then we take up first. So we breathe the oxygen, and there's a enzyme called cytochrome oxidase in the lungs, which helps us take up the oxygen through the alveoli into the blood. Okay, then the oxygen is picked up by the hemoglobin. So that is another porphyrin, and it's taken to the capillary bed into the cell, and so then we have, and then we use it in our metabolism differently from the plants. Also, there's a porphyrin called myoglobin that takes it to muscles, and that's why muscles are red. And all of these, these enzymes are named like cytochrome this and that chrome color because they have all sorts of exotic colors, mostly red, and because it's like they capture the sunlight in some way. But they strengthen the muscles then, and they help. And so as that dies down, then the meat turns a little browner, starts to oxidize, and maybe it even keeps it from oxidizing, I suppose. And I don't really know otherwise the function of hemoglobin, myoglobin. So that's uptake in the lungs. Where else do we uptake? We need energy. We get it through the guts, through the small intestine lining, and there we have an enzyme called cytochrome C, which helps us digest carbohydrates and bring them into the body. And then finally, we get to cytochrome PY450, the famous one that's in the liver that St. John's wort is known to act on. So that that enzyme helps the liver to break in phase 1, which is the breakdown of lipids, into the intermediate state that the flavonoids grab onto, that the bioflavonoids or antioxidants grab onto that that now water soluble but unstable molecule to keep it from blowing up and causing oxidation all over the place. That's not a cytochrome enzyme, but that's a different substance. Then it goes into the phase 2 by the liver and keeps on processing. But at any rate, so cytochrome PY450 is a very famous enzyme that it turns out that St. John's wort acts on, and it helps the liver to metabolize difficult to metabolize stuff, including medical drugs. So we'll get to that. Okay, so that's all the cytochrome molecules I can enzymes that I can remember, and we find that actually a lot of what St. John's wort does are influencing these pathways. Okay, so it does not contain porphyrins, but protoporphyrins, precursors to porphyrins. So it evidently stimulates the body's production of all these porphyrins. And so this is kind of the background to St. John's wort. And as far as I know, there is no other medicinal plant that contains porphyrins and that has this profile, this pharmacological profile. And I don't actually care that much for pharmacology, but what this means is that this is a totally unique plant that's not like any other plant. And I could never understand St. John's wort completely. I just didn't grok it. I didn't get the essence of the plant, even though all the pharmacology, the mythology and the uses and everything are very distinctive, but I just couldn't, how does this thing operate? What's going on? I couldn't get it until I understood porphyrins and pseudoporphyrins. Porphyrins are like a cross, an equal-sided cross, like the Crusaders again, an equal-sided cross molecule. So it even represents that sort of solar, that holism, the four corners, the four directions, the four elements with the point in the middle where they unify, kind of the solar point or whatever. So it's really quite remarkable, even on the chemical level. So, okay, so that's the pharmacology, basically. Most of what the plant does fits that pharmacology. There may be a few other molecules doing